Pam Bondi, the former Attorney General of Florida, has been a controversial figure, both during her tenure in Florida and in connection with her ties to Donald Trump. Despite early speculation that she might join the Trump administration after his first election in 2016, Bondi was ultimately not offered a position, a decision reportedly influenced by concerns about her past dealings with Trump University. When Bondi served as Florida's Attorney General, her office was looking into complaints about Trump University, an educational entity accused of widespread fraud. Floridians claimed they were misled and defrauded by the so-called university, but Bondi's office dropped its investigation shortly after receiving a $25,000 donation from Donald Trump's foundation. This decision raised questions about whether the donation constituted a bribe. The Orlando Sentinel, among other outlets, highlighted the suspicious timing and circumstances surrounding Bondi's decision to drop the investigation. Meanwhile, New York continued pursuing the lawsuit against Trump University, ultimately securing a $25 million settlement for defrauded students. Trump also paid a fine to the IRS after it was revealed that the $25,000 donation to Bondi had come from his foundation, a misuse of charitable funds. Adding to the controversy, Ivanka Trump also contributed to Bondi's campaign and the Florida Republican Party. Notably, Ivanka's 2014 donation marked the first time she had supported a Florida candidate financially, further underscoring the apparent conflict of interest. These financial ties, coupled with Bondi's decision to halt the investigation into Trump University, painted a picture of political favoritism and potential corruption. Bondi's ties to Trump extended beyond this single case. The government watchdog group Accountable US analyzed her actions as Attorney General and documented a pattern of behavior suggesting that Bondi frequently prioritized the interests of corporate donors over the public good. For instance, Bondi fired 2 attorneys and dropped housing foreclosure fraud lawsuits against predatory banks after a defendant, Lender Processing Services, donated nearly $32,000 to the Republican Attorneys General Association (RAGA). Bondi's campaign and affiliated political groups also benefited from substantial contributions tied to the National Rifle Association, NRA, fossil fuel companies, and other powerful interest groups. In one case, Bondi filed an amicus brief in Shoe v. Mello, a lawsuit seeking to overturn Connecticut's semi-automatic weapon ban. She similarly supported the NRA in challenging federal regulations on handgun purchases, advocating to lower the eligibility age from 21 to 18. These actions coincided with $133,800 in contributions from the NRA to RAGA. In another instance, Bondi joined multiple lawsuits aimed at reducing the Environmental Protection Agency's (EPA) regulatory authority under the Clean Air Act and Clean Water Act, following more than $1.26 million in donations to RAGA from fossil fuel interests. Critics have pointed out that Bondi's record reflects a troubling willingness to compromise professional ethics in exchange for political and financial gain. These controversies have resurfaced in light of her recent nomination for Attorney General under a potential Trump second term. While Bondi supporters argue that her 8-year tenure as Florida's top lawyer qualifies her for the position, detractors point to her history of conflicts of interest and political favoritism as disqualifying factors. During her confirmation hearings, Bondi faced sharp questioning about her stance on the 2020 election. When asked whether she believed there was massive fraud affecting the outcome, Bondi evaded direct answers, citing observations in Pennsylvania but failing to provide substantive evidence. Her inability to clearly state that Joe Biden won the election, a basic truth acknowledged even by many Republicans, fueled concerns about her independence and integrity. Bondi's evasive responses and ties to election denialism are consistent with her broader pattern of behavior. She has previously promoted conspiracy theories about fake ballots and voter fraud, particularly in Pennsylvania. Critics argue that her refusal to acknowledge the legitimacy of the 2020 election undermines the credibility required for the role of Attorney General, where impartiality and a commitment to the rule of law are paramount. The broader implications of Bondi's nomination extend beyond her personal record. In comparison to some of Trump's more controversial appointees, such as Kash Patel and Pete Hegseth, Bondi is perceived as relatively moderate. This perception has allowed her to evade the intense scrutiny that other nominees have faced. However, watchdog groups and media outlets continue to emphasize the seriousness of her past actions, warning that her appointment could erode public trust in the Department of Justice. For example, Bondi's actions as Attorney General in Florida demonstrate a pattern of using her office to benefit political donors. Beyond the Trump University scandal, her involvement in foreclosure fraud cases, gun control litigation, and environmental regulation rollbacks reveal a consistent prioritization of special interests over the needs of ordinary citizens. These actions have had tangible consequences for Floridians, from weakening environmental protections to undermining consumer rights in the housing market. The fact that Bondi's nomination has gained traction despite these controversies reflects a broader shift in political norms. In the context of Trump's chaotic governance style, characterized by loyalty over qualifications, Bondi's bread-and-butter corruption may appear less egregious than the outright criminality associated with other figures in Trump's orbit. Nonetheless, her record raises important questions about the standards for public service and the role of political accountability in preserving democratic institutions. Ultimately, Bondi's nomination for Attorney General serves as a litmus test for the Republican Party's commitment to ethical governance. Her track record, marked by conflicts of interest, questionable legal decisions, and a willingness to compromise ethical standards for personal gain, poses significant challenges to the credibility of the Department of Justice. As her confirmation process unfolds, it remains to be seen whether lawmakers will hold her accountable for her past actions or prioritize political expediency over the principles of justice and fairness.